Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Facebook Live session. Welcome if you're watching this live, and also welcome if you're watching this later on the replay. If you haven't met me or spoken to me before, introduce myself. My name is David Miles, and I'm on a mission to help mortgage brokers and financial advisors like you to start generating their own leads online so that they can stop buying them in or relying on referrals. So today's Facebook Live, it's a fairly short session because I've designed today just to answer a very specific question. And that question, well, it comes from, as many of you probably know, I've been running a webinar, a marketing masterclass a few times over the last week or so, looking at how to use Google Ads to generate mortgage leads from your website. And obviously we had Q&A at the end of each training session. And one of the most common questions that came up every time we ran the session was, this is great, but I don't have my own website, so how can I generate leads without my own site? So I thought it was worth just doing this short Facebook Live today just to answer that question in a little bit more depth than I was able to do on the main webinar. So just before we get started, do put something in the comments just to say hello, partly so as I know if my comment screen down here is working all right, because I'd also like, as we go through, if you've got any questions, I'd like to do the usual thing, put those in the comments, and then when we get to the end, I'll have a quick scroll through those and pick up on anything that needs answering. And if you're watching this on the replay, you can still put questions in, because I'll monitor the comments over the next couple of days and jump in and answer anything if you post a question. Right, so let me just get that where I can see it a bit better, and let's get going. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen because I've got a couple of slides that go with this. Second, where's it gone? There we are. Okay, fantastic. Right, so just to sort of set the scene here. So in these webinars, I was talking about how you can run a Google advertising campaign to drive people to your website in order to get them to submit a mortgage inquiry. Now, you might think it's strange that someone wouldn't have a website, but because what we're talking about here is most commonly the situation where someone is a self-employed advisor working for another firm, and so they're an appointed rep of that firm, and they don't have their own standalone website. So any Google ads that they did, or any Facebook ads, come to that, would all be driving traffic to the main company website, and there's no guarantee that a lead that's generated from that would go through to that individual self-employed advisor who'd paid the money on Google or Facebook to generate the traffic in the first place. So that's the challenge we're trying to overcome here. You're a self-employed advisor as part of a larger company. You haven't got your own site. You want to use Google ads or Facebook ads. How do you make sure that any leads that are generated actually come to you rather than to one of the other advisors in the company? And there are three different ways I'm going to explain this afternoon in which you can do that. So option one, and this I would say is my preferred option. If you can do this particular option, this is probably the best one to go for. So option one is to create your own standalone landing page. Now, when we talk about landing page, basically mean an individual web page which can be used to drive traffic to for the purposes of generating leads from it. Somehow you might hear it sometimes referred to as a squeeze page, but squeeze page, landing page, basically all the same thing. You could, as well as having a standalone page, you could also obviously expand that to be an entire standalone website, but I'm keeping it simple for now and just telling you about the bare minimum thing, which will be to have your own landing page. So your landing page will be a standalone page that sits on the same domain name, the same web address as your company's main website, but it's got its individual URL. So, for example, if I were a mortgage advisor, self-employed advisor as part of a large company, and let's say that company was called marvelousmortgages.com, then it might be a page that's marvelousmortgages.com/David. Okay, and that would be my landing page. And I've put on the slide here an example of the kind of thing that I mean by landing page. In fact, those of you who were on one of those webinars I talked about will recognize this as the example landing page that I showed during that training. And it's important that that landing page has a phone number that's going to go through directly to you rather than to anybody else. And also that the inquiry form on it, you can see on that example on there, we've got an inquiry form in the top right hand corner. That needs to be coded in such a way that anything that's submitted on that gets emailed directly to you rather than into any kind of central pot. The key thing with a landing page is, as I said, it's a standalone page, and therefore what you want to do is, as we can see in this example here, there's no menu bar at the top. So there's no easy way that someone who lands on your landing page can then find their way through to the main website. They could do, obviously they could look at the web address and they go, oh, I'm going to manually go to marvelousmortgages.com, but they've got to make a bit of effort. They can't just accidentally stumble through from the landing page to the main site. And similarly, on the main company website, there wouldn't be anything on the menu that would take people through to this page. So although it shares the same domain name, it's kind of, separated off. And you make sure that because this is a single page, that it has all the information on there that is needed to convert a visitor into someone who's going to submit an inquiry. Yes, Becky, you will be able to watch this later. It will be available within the Facebook group, or pretty much straight after it's finished. So yeah, you need to make sure the page has got all the information that's needed to convert them from a visitor into a lead. So that means things like having a clear value proposition, making sure, as we can see at the bottom of that screenshot there, that your unique selling points are clearly highlighted. And that page obviously would go on beyond that. It's got lots more information and follows all the kind of best practice for landing page design. And then what you could do is then you could run your Google Ads campaign or your Facebook ads campaign or LinkedIn ads or whatever it is you want to do and drive traffic specifically to this particular page. So that, in terms of sort of the process, is probably the easiest way of doing it. It requires a little bit of work to obviously create the page. You've also got to have buy-in from the company that you work for, that they're happy for you to have that separate page on there. But hopefully, there's benefits in it from them as well, because obviously the more business that you're generating, the more income share they're getting from you, etc. So if you put it to them that you're willing to invest your own money in driving ads and marketing it, and all you need is a bit of help from them in terms of allowing you to create this page, then then hopefully it's a win-win and they will go with it. If that's not an option, then you can consider option number 2. Which I've called this option the cookie option. So what this involves is, this is for the scenario where the firm you're working for, the principal, won't let you have that kind of landing page, and they're saying, no, you can run your own Google ads, you can run your own Facebook ads, but you have to send that traffic directly to the main company site, to marvelousmortgages.com, to continue that example. So what you need to do here, what the purpose of this is, to find a way that you can drive traffic to the main site, but have that traffic tagged to show that it's traffic that was generated via your particular advertising campaign. So as you can then make sure that if that traffic turns into a lead, you have someone who's tagged as one of your people submits an inquiry, that inquiry automatically goes to you rather than to any of the other financial advisors or mortgage brokers in your firm. So the way to do this, or the one way to do this, is you're going to need help from a web developer, from whoever develops and maintains the company's website. You need to get them to set it up so as when someone arrives on the website that is tagged as one of your visitors, and I'll explain how you tag them in a minute, that a cookie gets put on their computer. Now, you've probably heard of cookies, but maybe, well, I'm sure you've seen cookie warnings on virtually every website you go to. But if you're not sure what a cookie is, basically a cookie is when a website puts a little file on the computer of the person who's visiting that website, which contains, and that file contains certain information. So sometimes, for example, the cookie will contain information to show that they've already logged into the website and they don't need to log in again, or it might contain information that that says what their name is, so as the website can be personalized in certain areas. The kind of cookie we're talking about here will very simply be a cookie that just identifies that this person has come via one of your own links. Okay, so what happens is, if let's say you're running a Google Ads campaign to drive traffic to the main company website, what you would do is, instead of sending them just to marvelousmortgages.com, you would put some kind of parameter on the end of the web address, like I've shown on the slide there, in the form, for example, broker equals, and then maybe your initials. Okay, so in that example there, I'm sending people to the company website, marvelousmortgages.com, but I've put on the end of the address /broker equals DJM, which is my initials. Okay. And then what your web developer would need to do is just put some code on the website. So as whenever someone arrives and the website sees that broker code in the URL, it therefore then applies that cookie to their computer. So, and that cookie will stay there. And as they move through the website, and they might look at 10 different pages of the company website, then when they submit an inquiry, the inquiry form is programmed to look and see if that cookie is on their computer. And if it is, then the inquiry form knows that it must send that inquiry directly to you, the named broker, rather than into the central pot. Okay. Don't worry if that all sounds a little bit technical. It is a little bit technical, but a decent web developer should be able to do that pretty easily. It's fairly sort of routine stuff. You just need to explain to them that's the concept that you want to do, and they should be able to program it to do that. Okay. So that's your second option. And then the third option, this doesn't work if you're going down the Google Ads route, because this is all about using Facebook ads, but using a particular kind of Facebook ad where someone doesn't need to visit your website at all. So obviously then, if that's the case, the fact you don't have a website, suddenly that doesn't matter. So the kind of Facebook ad I'm talking about here is what's called a Facebook lead generation ad. And it differs from sort of standard ads in a very fundamental way. When you use a standard Facebook ad, the idea is that someone sees your ad and they click on the ad and they get taken through to your website. So they leave Facebook and they go to your website. With a lead generation ad, when someone clicks on the ad, they do not leave Facebook. So what happens, you can see in this screenshot here an example of how this works. Someone sees your ad, and let's say there's a button on the ad that says, in this example, subscribe, but there's different things you put on the buttons like download or get a quote or, you know, or find out more or whatever. And when they click that button, they stay on Facebook, the ad disappears and is replaced by an inquiry form, which in this example is asking for the person's name and their email address. And because Facebook already knows, of course, who the person is, they don't actually need to type in their name and email address. That gets pre-populated with whatever name and email they've registered with Facebook. They can overtype it, obviously, if they want to use a different email. But the point is, it's really nice and easy for them, because as long as the default email address that comes up is the one they want to use, all they've then got to do is click the submit button, and that's the inquiry done. So it removes you know, a level of friction, because the person hasn't got to click the ad, wait for your website to load, fill in a form on there. It's literally tap, tap, done. So in some ways, it's actually, you know, an easier way of getting them to submit a lead. Now, before you think, okay, this is definitely the way to go, just a caveat on this. As with any kind of Facebook advertising, it's probably not going to get you leads that are as hot or warm as leads that you would get from Google Ads. Because with a Google Ads campaign, someone's actually sat down at Google and typed in something that indicates they're looking for whatever product or service you sell, you know, in this example, a mortgage or mortgage advice. Whereas on Facebook, they were on Facebook doing something entirely different, and they stumbled across your advert and thought, okay, I'll click that and respond to it. So you generally find with any kind of Facebook ads that you need to have, there's going to be a longer sales cycle, and that you perhaps need to start off a bit more gently, rather than expecting someone on Facebook to immediately fill in a mortgage inquiry form, you know, even if it's just name, phone, email. You probably need to give them something a little bit, a smaller step to take, something that involves less commitment. So typically the way you would use these kinds of ads is, rather than trying to get someone to say, yes, I'd like someone to call me back and give me a mortgage quote, you get them to download some kind of guide, some kind of lead magnet. So basically some kind of free guide or something like that, which they can get in return for submitting this form. And so from their point of view, they're getting something useful and valuable. So, you know, and for example, if you were targeting first-time buyers, I've actually got a ready-made lead magnet you can buy from my website that is called something like 7 things you need to know when you're buying your first home, which obviously is going to be an appealing guide for a first-time buyer to have, and you can give that to them for free in return for them filling in this form. So you get their name and email address, they get the handy guide. And once you've got that name and email address, you can put their details into an email automation system, and you can send them follow-up emails, not with sales messages, but with further useful, informative information. So as they get closer to the point of actually wanting to talk to a broker, they're getting to know, like, and trust you via those emails as time goes on. So when perhaps, a week or 2 weeks down the line, I think, right, we're ready to get a mortgage quote now, they're not going to go off to Google and search. They're going to think, oh, well, that person whose guide I got, they've been sending me some useful emails. I'm just going to reply to one of their emails and say, I think I need your help. So it's a slower process, and you need that kind of nurture system in place. And if you're not familiar with, with lead mags and nurture stuff, I have done other Facebook Lives on that, and there's stuff on my blog about how that kind of thing works. And those of you who are in my membership program, the Predictable Pipeline program, you've got access to courses that actually teach you step by step, how to create those things as well. So do have that kind of lead magnet there. Do have the email nurture. And the other thing I would say is the default way that the Facebook lead generation ads work is or the information they submit on the form, the name and the email, that just goes into a spreadsheet. I mean, you've got to manually transfer it from there into your email marketing system, which if you're dealing with any kind of volume, obviously it's a bit of a faff, and you won't, and also people want to get this stuff instantly when they filled in the form. So I would recommend that you use a tool like Zapier, which is an automation tool, which allows you to do all sorts of things. But one of the things it will let you do is create an automation whereby as soon as someone fills in your lead generation ad on Facebook, Zapier automatically takes their details out of the spreadsheet and puts it into your email automation system. So yeah, so that's an optional step, but it will make life much easier, and it'll make the whole process much slicker. So there we are. Those are my 3 recommended solutions. If you don't have a website but still want to start investing some marketing money in Google ads or Facebook ads, there are 3 ways you can do it. I say, but the best way is to be able to have that standalone landing page on your company's website. Failing that, look at whether the web developer can use cookies to tag your traffic to the main website and sort of segregate it and make sure that the inquiries from your traffic come to you. Or if you're happy to use Facebook ads rather than Google, then you could go down the Facebook lead generation ad, but just be aware you need to put that little bit of work in up front to create the resources for lead magnets, the follow-up emails and stuff, in order to have that system in place that you can then feed the funnel with those ads from Facebook. So I hope that's useful. Obviously, it's a more in-depth answer to that question than I was able to give on the webinar. So hopefully that's particularly helped those of you who were there for that. I'm just going to change screens and have a look, and see if we've got anything in the comments in the way of questions. So if you've got a question and haven't put it in yet, then do so now while I'm just scrolling through there. Slightly odd, it says I've got 7 comments, but I can only see 4 coming up. So I hope there's not a question there that I'm missing. No, so I can see some hellos, and I can see Becky's question that I answered about whether you can watch it later. So no, I don't think, unless something's broken, I don't think there are any questions. So I shall take that to mean that it all made sense. If I did mention the webinar there that I ran on how to use Google Ads to generate mortgage leads, I've run that 3 times over the last sort of 7 to 10 days. I am, because there are a few people have been in touch saying they couldn't make any of the dates, so I am actually running it again. So if you're interested in coming along to that, I'm running it again on Wednesday next week, Wednesday the 17th at 4 p.m. UK time. And if you want to register that, it's a totally free marketing masterclass. It's about an hour's worth of training on how to use Google Ads to generate 10 new mortgage clients in the next 10 weeks. And if you look in the announcements section in this Facebook group, you'll see a link there to the page where you can sign up for that. So if you didn't get a chance to come along before, do come along to that one. And of course, if you don't have a website, you'll already know now how to get around that, and how to then still be able to use Google Ads to generate the leads. So I hope that's been useful. Thank you very much for coming along. Let's say if you're watching this on the replay and have questions, then feel free to put those in. I'll keep an eye on this, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.